Hey guys, love your content and wanted to hear what you have to say about this certain subject. My partner and I have been in a relationship for about 2.5 years now, and a constant theme that has shown up for us is conflict surrounding my emotions.
2.5 years?
2.5 years. I'm what some might call sensitive or over emotional. The problem I'm looking to resolve or find answers to is, am I being too emotional? Am I creating the problems, or is what I'm saying valid? So I want to address her saying I'm what some might call sensitive or over emotional. I cry a lot. A lot. I cry on camera constantly, and I just keep talking to you. Me crying is my body's reaction to things. I can't control myself crying, and I hate it. But I've just accepted that's who I am as a person. And some people would say that's too sensitive or I'm over emotional because I will cry and continue talking.
Right.
In my mind, that's healthy. The fact that I can sit here and cry to you and still carry on a conversation and resolve things or whatever the discussion is and process my shit, that's healthy to me. When I hear sensitive or over emotional, that's someone who's like in a constantly anxious state and you can't take constructive criticism. Or you start crying, and because you're crying, it has to be paused and you have to be consoled.
Yeah. The sensitive, the way that I took that and the way that you took that is very different.
Yeah. How did you take that?
You need to put some fucking dirt on it. Let's go. But that's me.
Yeah.
Yeah. Your emotional state and sensitivity, in my opinion, is not the way that I took that. Mm-hmm. You being a crier, you're just a crier.
Right.
But if you get emotional and you act out on those emotions, here's a thought, right? This is not relevant, but it's relevant. If I was an angry person, and I'm passionate. I've said that over and over and over again. It takes a lot to actually make me mad. If I got angry and I punched holes in the wall, I'm not punching holes in the wall as anger. I'm punching holes in the wall as a emotional reaction to things, right? That's me acting out because I don't know how to properly display what's going on. Mm-hmm. So instead I punch holes in the wall and try to get attention and try to voice my frustrations that way, right? So in that scenario, if you're overly emotional and sensitive and you are calling names, freaking the fuck out, crying, sobbing, flipping tables, being sensitive, I can't believe you didn't say thank you when I brought you your napkin, and start freaking the fuck out over it. It's a very different scenario than somebody who legitimately has a grievance and gets upset over it. So like there's a difference. And that's how I took that. If she believes she's being overly emotional and sensitive, how are you being overly emotional and sensitive?
Right.
Are you punching holes in the wall, crying, freaking out for no fucking reason, or are you just crying about it?
Right.
Because it's two different things. You can get angry and keep that shit in check. Figure out why you're angry and then talk about it.
Yeah.
Being angry is okay. You can be mad as a motherfucker, and it's very okay as long as you're not acting on that anger.
Right.
You process it. Figure out why you're angry. Anger is a good emotion. Any emotion that you feel is an alert system of some sort on how you need to deal with things.
Right. Me crying while having a conversation, there are some men who would say that's you're too sensitive or you're being over emotional. You need to stop crying.
Right.
I've had that happen. That's why I suppressed my crying during conversations and I just screamed in my car because nobody gave me a safe space to actually express how I process things.
Yeah, I do.
You do.
I would rather you tell me what's going on than suppress or hide.
Right.
Because I can't fix what I don't know about. So, and like, I know that I make fun at inappropriate times. I did it this morning because I feel like can I talk about that? Do you care? I have not said good morning to you in terms of actually saying good morning. I'll touch your feet. I'll talk to you in the morning. I'll give you a kiss, call you beautiful, whatever. Like I've been trying to be flirty, but I haven't actually said good morning.
Right.
And you were like, why aren't you saying good morning to me? And I was like, do you need me to actually say that? Is what I'm doing not enough? And you were like, yes. And I'm like, okay, I'll do that. And that was the end of it for me. And you were still on it because you were expecting me to have some sort of conflict or defensiveness. And I started cracking jokes about it, just trying to be cute. And like, you were not about it. And when you were like, I just got super upset thinking you were going to get defensive. I'm like, babe, I'm not defensive. I'm only playing with you. Like, I'm trying to make light of the situation. I love you. It's not a big deal for me to tell you good morning if that's what you need.
Yeah.
This morning, I came out of the bedroom and you were in the bathroom, in the kids' bathroom. And I walked out and the kids were asleep out in the living room, which blew my fucking mind because normally they're in their bed. And I was like, damn, they're all going through it. And I was like, are you in the bathroom? And you're like, yep. And I'm like, okay. And I walked in here. And I'm not going to go in the bathroom Like while you're going to the bathroom,
Right.
there's still things that are sacred to us that we don't need to experience each other doing.
Mm-hmm.
But if I would have just walked in there and be like, "Good morning," and kissed you while you were,
Right. I want to clarify. That's not what I'm asking you to do.
that's where the joking came in, right? Because I could have made that really weird,
Right.
and because of my personality type, I could make that really fucking weird, and I would be okay with it. But I also don't think that that's an over emotional or sensitive scenario. I think that you were trauma response expecting me to blow the fuck up over you telling me that you actually want me to tell you the words "good morning."
Yeah.
That's nothing in the grand scheme of things that could go wrong.
Mm-hmm.
So knowing mental checklist, I need to say good morning. I'm going to say good morning. So it's not a big deal. I just know that means more to you than me
Right.
touching your foot and calling you beautiful or
That
asking
falls
you how
into
you
my-
slept.
So I'm reading the love languages right now, and quality time, part of that is quality conversation.
Right.
And I recognized this morning after we had that conversation that you telling me good morning is part of that quality conversation for me.
Right. But you hold on to the phrase good morning and not how did you sleep? Like you need that initial positive interaction.
Yeah.
I think differently than my brain does.
Mhm.
I don't know how to word that, but do you understand what I'm
Yeah.
saying? You need the conversation to initiate a certain way,
Mhm.
whereas I get the same thing out of whether saying good morning or how did you sleep.
Right.
Like, or if you ask me how I slept, I'm going to take that the same way as good morning because you care about my existence. And I didn't realize it was a thing for you because that's our brains don't work the same way. And now that I know. So I'm going to hit you with a good morning and tickle your feet, smack your ass. I don't know. But there was a moment where you were expecting me to have a big blowout and there was no reason for that. Like, and I think that I kind of correlated the fact that you would hold things in and cry and scream in your car versus actually talk about it because you expect people to have a blowout.
Well, the reason I expected that is because you've been having like your BPD going on. And the last few times I have come to you, you've interpreted it as an attack and you've gotten defensive.
About what?
I can't remember the instances, but there were 2 points within the last month or so.
I remember one of them, and it was because of it was definitely the timing. It was definitely the fucking timing because I was in the middle of a full blown situation.
For example, my partner and I are currently long distance. Yesterday evening, while talking on the phone, I called him and he was busy at the moment.
Pause for a minute. I'm sorry if my borderline reactions get defensive. That's not one of those things that I can control. And if I realize that it's happening in the moment, I will apologize for it immediately. But when I'm going through it, it's very hard for me to regulate that.
Right.
So knowing that you were afraid to talk to me this morning over something as simple as good morning kind of makes me feel like shit. And it's not a you thing, it's a me thing. And I know that's a me thing. It's something that I have to work on. But I don't want you to ever fear coming to me about things. And even if I get defensive and we have a back and forth about it and I'm kind of an asshole because I feel the need to defend myself, I'm still going to correct the problem. So I don't want you to stop coming to me about things that I'm doing wrong or that you're having a problem with. I need to know that it's happening or I can't correct it. So even if I do get defensive and there is a problem there and we work through the problem, it's worth it. I don't want you to not come to me about things.
Okay.
I'm sorry that I get defensive like that. I don't like that I do that.
I know.
Okay.
I know you don't do it on purpose. I love you.
I love you too. That's why I don't want you to ever fear coming to me about things. I know that my borderline gets out of hand. We both know. I've said it over and over and over again. Being with somebody with borderline is fucking hard. It sucks. It sucks just as much for you as it sucks for me having it. And in those moments, normally, I know that I'm going through it. And if I tell you I'm going through it, I think moving forward, like you just need to give me a little bit of time to calm down before bringing something to me.
No, I've recognized. I'm just going to steer clear.
Right. You can't get on the roller coaster. And if I'm going through it and you bring something to me, you're getting on the roller coaster because now you're engaging me when I'm fucking spiraling.
Right. But the only reason I did that is because you've told me to not hold off.
Right. Because I don't want to think things are good and you be harboring something that was a pebble and now it's a giant fucking snowball because you've been holding it for a few days and me think that everything is good. And then you come to me and it become a problem because it wasn't addressed when it was a pebble. Does that make sense? Like, I don't want to get hit with a boulder.
Right. So I don't understand how to approach the situation then, because if I approach you in the moment, That's a problem.
Well, only
And
when
for-
I'm in episodes.
Right. But you've told me, even if you're in an episode, to come to you about it because you don't want to deal with the after fact of whatever it is.
Right.
You'd rather address it in the moment. But now we know that I have to steer clear and kind of give you your space. But if I bring it up 3 days later, are you going to be like,
Well, it doesn't have to be 3 days. Like,
what if you're in an episode for 3 days?
then we just need to have it out. And like, I will try not to do those things. And you can tell me like, hey, you're in an episode right now. I need you to not be defensive and say what you need to say, because it could logic brain me at least a little bit.
Okay.
But I don't want things to be like, I don't want to come out of an episode and think that life is good and then us have a problem and it throw me right back into an episode, because it happens. It doesn't take much to trigger that shit.
Right.
And I see it as weakness. I really fucking see that as a weakness because I can't control myself.
Right.
And I pride myself on discipline and like fighting urges and being a stoic person, but I can't control my mental illnesses. I can only try to logic brain and work through them as quickly as I can. Sometimes it's fucking quick. Sometimes it's really not.
Right.
Sometimes I can't even identify what the problem is, and that makes it a lot harder to work through what's going on. But I have to backpedal and then logic brain work my way back out of things. Sometimes it does take time.
Right.
I would rather you approach things, even if I'm having a moment, knowing that we may have a disruption, because I don't want things to go unresolved. I really believe that if you let things simmer and they go on for too long, they're a much bigger fucking problem than they are if you just address them when they happen.
Right.
Because, and that even the other night when I was going through my episode and we had our back and forth, it was fast.
Mm-hmm.
Excuse me. It was quick. It was 10, 15 minutes, maybe. If we would have waited until I came out of that and like 3 or 4 more things would have happened, you may have been bitter towards me or having a fuck you moment towards me. And when you tried to address all 4 of those things, it could have been a really big deal instead of just addressing those small things in the moment and having a 10-minute discomfort. I would much rather have that 10 minutes than a 3-hour ordeal or like a really big blow up. Like, we don't have big blow ups.
Right.
Even in those moments, they are very insignificant in terms of like what normal people go through with their conflict.
Right.
I would rather have those quick things and apologize and have to apologize later than it become a really big fucking deal and us be at odds. It sucks.
Yeah, I'm just trying to figure out how to navigate it, because those moments are really triggering for me.
Yeah.
Because you don't speak to me that way, and when you do, it's hard.
Yeah.
So
The other night when we were actually having conflict and you hit me with that, like, whoa, wait a minute. We don't do that. It instantly reeled me the fuck back.
yeah.
So maybe that's the answer. If I do something, be like, whoa, wait, why did you go there? Maybe that might be enough. I don't know. A lot of this is still new, like, because I am so much better than what I was.
Right.
Like, so much fucking better than what I was. So, that personal growth and development has helped me a lot, but I am still trying to find new roadmaps to get out of things. And we have found a lot of new things. Our conflict is super fucking short now, and it's not
Right.
real conflict. It's just a disruption.
Yeah.
I honestly, I feel like, I know that I've said that we've had like 5 arguments. They're not. We've had one real blowout that was like a problem, and everything else has been minor disagreements and
Just course
disruptions.
correcting.
Right. And I really truly view it that way. So when people are like, how do you guys deal with conflict? We don't really have it. We have minor disruptions where things need to be addressed and we figure it out real fucking quick and we move on. When people have arguments that last all day or 2 days or a week and like they're constantly at odds with their partners, I don't know what that's like. We don't do that. I think we've had one night where it actually transferred overnight into the next morning. And like, even then I don't see it as, I mean, I know that it was conflict, but it wasn't as bad as it could have been. Like, I don't know. I think that our relationship is super fucking healthy, and even our disruptions are not that bad. So
Right.
like, and because of our past, we both have had horrible fucking relationships. I compare what we go through with what I've previously gone through, and that comparison is insignificant as fuck. So even when I'm having a bad moment, I have to apologize, or we have a moment like we did this morning and I make a little joke about it. Like, I don't view any of this as I viewed previous situations. It's all been very minor.
Yeah.
So, and maybe that's a me thing. I hope you feel the same way, but
Oh yeah.
I can't imagine that you don't, because we don't really go through
Right.
the shit that other people go through.
Yeah, I think about my past relationships and how arguments would last a week or two.
Yeah.
15 minutes is nothing.
Right.
So when it comes to your BPD and me having to bring something to you, if you are, say it's been 3 hours since something happened, if I come to you and I ask you, are you still in an episode? You're going to ask me why I'm asking you.
Right. Yes and no. And I'm only going by the other night because that was the most recent one and the most fresh in my mind.
Mm.
I told you I was going through it and you immediately hit me with something. And like, when we had our discussion, my reaction was, I told you I was fucking going through it and I needed a minute. And what you brought to me looking back on it really wasn't a big deal. It really wasn't. Like, I shouldn't have reacted the way that I did, but I was fucking going through it in the moment. And I was mad and frustrated and going through a gambit of emotions and trying to work through my shit. And it was just the wrong fucking timing on
Right.
the initial engagement.
You didn't tell me you needed a minute. You just said you were going through it.
Right.
If you would have said I need a minute, I would have left you the fuck alone.
Right. Well, now I know that. I figured me telling you that I was going through it would have been enough, but
No, because you've told me even if you're going through it, you want me to come to you with things.
right. It's hard to navigate.
It is.
I don't want you to feel like you can't come to me with things. And if I do get snappy and I'm going through it, then you just need to call me on being snappy, or like, there's no need for you to be defensive right now. I'm not attacking you. Those kind of like acknowledgments help. They do help. And after we had that conversation, after I came out of my episode, you flat out told me I wasn't attacking you. Like, it wasn't a reason for you to even be defensive.
Mm-hmm.
And I was, well, in the moment, I felt like I was being attacked and I felt the need to be defensive. So I got defensive. And you were like, I was just trying to understand what was going on. So in the event that I get defensive and start to respond that way, and that's not what's going on, and I'm reading the situation wrong, you can just tell me, like, I'm not coming at you that way. I'm just trying to understand what's going on. There's no reason to be defensive. It could de-escalate. I don't know. Until we go through these things now, we have to go through all of these possible scenarios until we find a situation that I'm able to respond to in the moment.
Right.
I don't know.
We'll get there.
Yeah. It just sucks knowing that we have to be in that position to get through it. It's not a normal conversation where you can say, this is what you did. This is how I felt. Moving forward, we need to do this. Because I can say that in theory as much as I want, but until I'm going through an episode and having to deal with my logic brain while an emotional brain thinking, I don't fucking know how I'm going to respond to things.
Right.
I do know that 99% of the time, if I'm going through it and somebody brings a problem to me, if I am involved in that problem, even if I'm not the problem, I'm going to feel the need to defend myself.
Right.
Because I am the problem. Like, in my mind, I'm a big piece of shit loser. Like, I'm fucking ruining everyone's lives. Why do I exist? Like, that's a very real thing for me. And that just, it compiles.
I get that.
I don't know. That was a good side rail.
Yeah.
Did not want to do that on the radio or on the cast.
cut it.
But no, I'm not. People enjoy that shit.
Yeah.
I hate it. I fucking hate it. But I
Why?
know they enjoy it. Because why do I hate it?
Yeah.
Because it makes me look weak.
It doesn't make you look weak.
It does, because I believe when I look in the mirror that I'm a stoic man, that I am in control of my emotions, that I am able to not yell, not scream. I'm able to logic brain think my way out of most conflict. Like, I believe that I am a disciplined man.
Right.
When I am in a borderline episode, I know that I am not. So when we have to have these conversations about that, it takes the veil of who I believe I am and shows me who I really fucking am in the moment. And it's very difficult for me to face that. So it makes me feel like I am less than, because
Right.
otherwise I have my shit together.
Mm-hmm.
I believe that. So knowing that in my borderline episodes, I am not the same person, it makes me feel weak. There's no other way to explain that. I don't have the words to put that out.
I understand. You're out of control.
Right. So when we see these and I see how I affect you and I see that I make you emotional and that I hurt you, it fucking sucks.
I think if anything, it makes them view you as a stronger man. Because this whole conversation could have been, well, this is how I am. You have to fucking accept it.
No, you don't have to accept it.
That would make you a weak man. If you used your borderline as an excuse to be mean and nasty and put me down. You don't put me down. I want to clarify that.
Right.
But you could if you wanted to in a borderline episode and then not apologize for it.
Yeah. That I don't know. I think that would make me view myself a lot harder, like a lot worse than just weak.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
You can't control the way your brain works.
No.
The way that you present yourself outside of your borderline episodes is how you are as a man.
Right.
And the way you respond to those episodes and course correct shows who you are as a man.
Yeah. The problem is without my borderline, I am in control of all of that.
Right.
So I do see that as a weakness. You know, I kept my borderline under wraps for a very long time. I didn't tell anybody about it. I didn't talk about it. I just owned it. It was mine, whatever. And I probably wasn't honest with myself and others with that until I was in my mid 30s.
Yeah.
I've accepted it now, and I've done a whole lot of work to try to make it better, but I don't like using that as a crutch.
Right.
To know that you have a hard time coming to me about something because you're afraid that I'm going to get defensive or react poorly to it, that's a problem. Like, for me as a man, that's a fucking problem. I don't want you to ever not feel safe coming to me with something. And knowing that if I'm in a borderline episode, I treat you poorly when you are just coming to me over something as simple as you needing to be actually verbalized, told good morning. If I was in a borderline episode and I reacted poorly to that and I had to apologize for that later, like that's a problem for me. I don't know. Anyways, I'm sorry.
It's okay. I knew what I was getting into.
Yeah. It doesn't make it okay though.
I know.
And for me to be like, well, I have borderline, and to just try to make that the excuse, because it is a fucking excuse.
But you don't do that.
I know, because I don't want to be that guy. I don't want to just accept that I have a mental illness and just fucking go on with my life.
Yeah.
I want to thrive. I want to be better. I want to work through my shit. I don't want to do it at the cost of somebody else's feelings or fears or a detriment of my marriage. I just can't control that shit sometimes. And me even saying I can't control that shit sometimes is a fucking excuse. It is. I should be able to control my fucking emotions. That is a normal function that everyone should be able to do.
Right.
And knowing that in the moment I am completely out of control is a problem. And in knowing that it's nowhere near as bad as it used to be is a win, but it's still an excuse. Well, at least not as bad as I used to be. That's bullshit. You can fucking be better. You need to get your shit together. And that's the way I feel about it. So knowing when we have these conversations, I feel weak because I'm not where I should be.
Like a chink in your armor.
It is. It's a fucking problem. It's a problem. And I could very much play the victim mentality and throw all those excuses and do all that shit, and it would destroy my marriage. It would. Because I could just allow it to happen and be like, well, that's just who I am. Accept me. That's not okay. It's not okay. It's not okay to treat people like that.
Right. I respect you as a man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I appreciate that. I don't know.
Did I just fuck up your day?
No, my day's not fucked up. No, it's not. I just, there's a remorse, I think, there, because I don't ever want to treat you that way. It's why when I get angry, I'm able to pull myself out of that. When I'm going through an episode, though, I can't.
Right.
I can regulate it. I do regulate it. I fucking do regulate it. But I'm not able to regulate it the way that I can regulate when I'm in logic mind thinking. I don't know. And I know to extremes, I have to call somebody. But when we're going through what we went through the other night, that wasn't an extreme. And I felt like I handled it okay. But I obviously wasn't okay because you were afraid to talk to me this morning about saying good morning. Like, when I say that back to you, and knowing that you were literally freaking out about having to talk to me about that makes me feel like I'm a fucking problem. Like, you shouldn't be afraid to come and talk to me about something, and having anxiety about having a conversation with me is a problem for me. That's not okay. It just means that I have to fucking work harder and try to figure out my shit and maybe just tell you, like, not right now. I don't know until I'm going through it again, but I know that I need to keep that in check because that's not okay for me. It's just not. I don't know what else to say about any of this. And like,
Right.
I really feel like I just need to apologize and apologize and apologize. And I don't want to keep doing that either.
Okay. You just want to get back into the email?
Please.
For example, my partner and I are currently long distance. Yesterday evening, while talking on the phone, I called him and he was busy at the moment.
Yeah, well, you're long distance. That's going to happen.
Well, I don't understand. Yesterday evening, while talking on the phone, I called him. So were you wanting to talk to him?
It's probably just misworded.
Okay.
when you guys are long distance, people have their own fucking lives.
Right.
I don't understand why people do the long distance relationship because you're not a priority.
Right.
You're not.
It's like an out of sight, out of mind.
That's it. That's exactly it. And you have no idea what your person's doing. And you
Right.
guys could love having communication and be besties and pen pals and all of that shit. But when you go out, you have no idea what their life truly entails.
Mm-hmm.
You are a fraction of time in their existence when you have
Right.
the phone calls or the text messages.
When you think about it, if you're doing 2 phone calls a day for 30 minutes each, you get an hour
Right.
out of their 24 hours.
Yeah.
And even in not in all relationships, not just long distance, if your partner is out with their friends and they're in the middle of doing something, they're not going to walk away for 30, 45 minutes to have a conversation with you.
Right. It's not fair to them.
Right. That's the kind of thing where you have to shoot a text message and be like, hey, are you in the middle of something? I miss you. I want to talk to you. Lately, it feels like it's only a good time if he calls me, and if I call, it's a bad time. He ended the phone call with, I'm trying to be in my present moment. I'd rather not talk about this right now. I'd rather not talk about this right now. What were you trying to talk to him about? Were you coming to him with an issue while he's out doing something?
Right. There's a time and place for those conversations. You can't expect somebody to stop the world because you need them in that moment.
Right. If you're having an anxiety attack over something that was said, and say they're at work, they can't stop what they're doing at work to tend to you having an anxiety attack because you had an emotional response.
Right.
You have to self-regulate, and that's something that can be addressed later.
I'd also like to point out that if you're one of those people that always does that, eventually it's going to get old to the other person.
Right.
And there are people who may love you and be that sensitive, but eventually it's going to get fucking old. And people on the other end of that phone who are at work or who are doing other things are going to be like, I can't deal with this right now, because they will see that as a form of attention seeking.
You know, it's a form of manipulation.
It is.
If you are constantly calling and having anxiety attacks and you need to tend to me, you need to coddle me, you are training that person to give you attention only in a negative situation.
Right. It's a pity me mindset.
It is a pity me mindset. This is a kind of situation, from my perspective, just based on the information that we have right now, you are anxious because you're not getting attention. So you're doing anxious attachment styles of constantly calling and blowing up, and I need your attention. You need to pay attention to me. What are you doing? Who are you talking to? You're on Facebook, but you're not messaging me. That is oh, fuck, I lost it.
It's exhausting.
It's very exhausting for both parties.
You just saying that made me not want to
I
deal
used
with
to be
it.
that person.
I would not deal with that.
Yeah. I was that person where attention for 30 to 45 minutes, that's good attention, was not enough for me. I needed to know that you were thinking about me every second of every day. And I would blow people up. And that's why I'm saying that I feel like this is the kind of attachment style where you're anxious about everything. And if you're constantly blowing him up and saying, I need your attention, we have to talk about this, and blah, 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 but he's out with the boys and he's trying to have a good time after a stressful day at work, he's not going to want to deal with your ass.
Right.
There's a time and a place for everything.
There's a way to deal with your own problems.
There is.
Yeah.
Hey guys, if you enjoyed that, found it entertaining, funny, or even learned something you didn't know before, share it. And if you're not subscribed, why aren't you? And for those of you who want to support us, get access to exclusive content and live streams, we do have a Patreon. All the links are in the description.